It's great to be here. This was meant to be. This was meant to be. I wasn't planning to come here tonight until Lyndon did this invitation. It's very interesting. So that's how my life is. It's one big improvisation. So that's what I want to talk about, improv. Anybody improv here? What? I think we all do improv, I think, in different ways. So when I thought about coming tonight, the phrase that kept coming up for me was that I see everything as interconnecting circles. I live my life, I think, as a Venn diagram in many ways. And I wanted to talk about the pieces. The pieces for me would be like Lyndon talked about a rabbi and a coach. And so the overlap between the two of them is really very interesting. So like when I do coaching and everybody sees my bio and they say, oh, she's a rabbi, so I have to tell them I'm not here to convert you. I'm here to talk about the space. And it's that space that I love to swim in between that the two circles overlap. And in that space, I swim. I sometimes choke in that space. I float in that space. And I know that no matter what happens, I am buoyant. I am not going to sink because there's something bigger than me holding me as I float in those spaces. So as you're hearing me talk, and you know already that I lived here in Beaufort. I now live I'm in Greensboro.
Yeah.
Thank you. I need a little help here. I'm in Greensboro. I live in Beaufort, South Carolina, and I don't talk like I'm from Greensboro or South Carolina. I can do it, but I'm not going to do it tonight. So I learned how to talk in Boston. So one of my circles is Boston. The other circle is the South. I've been here since the early 70s, and I love both of them. And I live in the overlap of trying to figure out how to live there without denying each part of myself. And that's really one of the most important things about living in the overlap. And I got that from my friends, that idea of living in the overlap from my friends Lenny and Pearl. So the first time I wrote a book was here in Greensboro. And the book was my dissertation. That's what brought me here. And it's about self-disclosure and coming out. And that theme seems to have focused on my life. So when I told you about the two circles, so one circle might be you, Herb, and the other circle is me, and we get together and we build a partnership. When I'm not in partnership with anybody else, I'm in partnership with myself. I'm a meditator. I'm coming out as a meditator. I'm a meditator. I love silence and I love solitude. And in that space, in that meditation space, I hear voices. I'm coming out to tell you I hear voices. Anybody else here hear voices? Thank you very much. So the voice I heard in the mountains of North Carolina was, you're going for a trip around the world. And I laughed. And I said, what would you say? When? Would you want to know? When am I going? And I got a date, and it was a year away, and I left. And I traveled for about a year. Somebody said, so how long are you going to be gone? I didn't know how long I was going to be gone, but I said, I'll be gone about a year. Intuition. Intuition is part of improv. It's about trusting yourself. I was gone. But I had to decide which way to go, east or west. I decided west. Financially, it was more reasonable. So I went west, but where was I going to go first? Well, when I was 13, my grandmother died. And I went up to look at all her books in the library, and there was a book called 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. Anybody read that book? You know the story though. So 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, I decided I'm going to Japan first, and I'm going to Hiroshima, and Nagasaki. Well, as it turned out, I only got to Hiroshima. And I wrote home to my young friends, and I said, I hope that you young people, and this was 1996, so it was a while ago, that you won't allow this ever to happen again. I ended up at the Peace Park, and it was extraordinary. Fast forward, oh no, on that trip, I was in India, and I was at the Sri Aurobindo ashram, and I met these young women from Japan, and they had come with their art, and it was the 7th of the month, and they came over to me and they said, we sit and meditate every 7th of the month. Would you like to sit with us? And so I sat with them, and I found out that they sit every 7th of the month because on December 7th, I don't remember the year, but December 7th was when Pearl Harbor was bombed. My uncle was at Pearl Harbor. That's why my grandmother had that book. And so, fast forward, I need to make a mark in the world, and I have a newsletter because I'm supposed to have a business, and newsletters are good for business, and I decided that I didn't want to use my newsletter for business. And so, for the last 3 years, I've been sending out a newsletter every 7th of the month, asking people to just pause and breathe. And pause and breathe. Just breathe. You're right here, know where your feet are, know what your heart is doing in this moment. And so, when Andy was talking about traveling light is doing everything on the internet, right? So I don't have to see anybody, I don't have to do anything, right? I heard something else. So I sent out this newsletter, and I'm sitting in meditation again, and I'm becoming a rabbi, and I hear the Society of the Vav. Anybody ever heard that before? If you don't know me. If you know me, you've heard the Society of the Vav. The Vav is the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And when you put it in front of words, it means and. So I stuck and on the Google, and up came yes and improv. So I started thinking, yes and, okay, what does this mean? I'm in love with this Hebrew letter. I'm becoming a rabbi. I'm supposed to know this stuff. And I decided, because I have a friend that did a blog, and I thought, if he could do it, I can do it. So I kept a blog. For 5 years, I kept a blog. It was like a memoir. I was trying to figure out what and means. What is the Society of the Vav? I have no idea. For 5 years, and then I decided that I was teaching meditation, and I said that when you sit in meditation, it's an act of love, self-love. Nobody else will sit with your mind. So I decided that if I can meditate, then I can take this blog that I kept for 5 years and make it a book. And that's what I did. It was an act of love, about you and me. So I think my time is almost up. So I just want to say, this going light works great until you have another idea. And I've been fascinated with death lately, and I couldn't figure out why. Ending, death, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out. And in came a link to this project called Before I Die. Anybody ever heard of Before I Die? Candy Chang, New Orleans, 2003, had a surrogate mother that was very dear to her that died. And she's a TED Fellow, an artist that does a lot outdoors. And she decided that she was going to take one of the old buildings in New Orleans, cover it with a board, painted blackboard paint, and wrote on it, "Before I die," at the top. Then, "Before I die, I want to, before I die, I want to, before I die, I want to, before I die, I want to." The whole place was covered, the whole wall was covered, and she left a box of chalk there. The next morning, it was completely filled. This project has gone all over the world, from Kazakhstan to Madrid to Jerusalem to Australia. And I said, we're going to do it here in Beaufort. I live in a very diversified city. The black people live over there, the white people over there, and sometimes we live on the same street. But it's very, very clear that there's a white community and a black community, and I didn't want that board to be a white board. And so we have a mobile board. Instead of making a wall that's permanent, we have a board. So I'm not traveling light here. My grandson and I have created this board. He built it, I painted it, and this week he gets the stencil. We've got 5 places right now that are going to use the board for various things. One of them is Martin Luther King weekend. A friend has a church, and he's going to put it at his church for the week. So sometimes you have to be a little bit heavier and be okay with it. So in Nepal, I learned when I said thank you to somebody that they don't say thank you, because that would indicate that there's me and there's you. And I'm going back to my 2 circles and the overlap. They say namaste, which means that there is no separation between you and me. And I honor my friend Lyndon and metta and loving kindness that needs to be more in this world by saying namaste. Thank you for listening. Thank us for listening.